Next up, let's add our render of the God rays, the volumetric lighting. And let's just go here. I think we'll want to denoise this a little bit. Yeah, currently this is very noisy, so I think because this is going to be such a subtle effect, we can blur and denoise it a little bit, and it'll be okay. We don't need perfect quality. So let's just create a denoise node, and let's zoom out and grab our little analysis region that we get, and let's just put it over a spot that has a uniform pattern, like here. And let's have a look. If I increase this, yeah, we'll just denoise it as much as we can. Okay, and also let's add a blur node. And let's put this up to 10 maybe. Okay. Now let's just zoom out a little bit. And what we also want to do is add a reformat. Again, this is rendered at half resolution, just the same as our fog VDBs. So let's just copy the reformat from here and paste it here. And actually, let's just quickly create backdrop. We'll call this fog VDB. And above, we're gonna create a backdrop here. And we'll call this waterfalls FG. And let's make it maybe blue. Here we're gonna again create a backdrop, might as well. And we'll call this, what is this? Okay, so this is fog 2D. And these are waterfalls BG. Okay. So it takes a minute or two, but it becomes much easier to navigate when you have a big scene. So I would recommend organizing everything into groups like this. So let's just copy this merge, which already has the setting set to screen, and plug this in here and this in here. And let's have a look. Maybe let's make this a little bit bigger. So, okay, so currently the effect is very general. It's not very precise. I want maybe a little bit more sharpness to these God rays. So I'll just create a grade node here. And let's drop the gamma down. And let's lift up the gain. We can do 10. Okay, so that's now a lot clearer. We can see these quite well now individually, so that's quite cool. But maybe it would be good to maybe just tone the effect down a little bit. So let's just create a roto. And let's plug this into the mask. And here in the roto, let's just draw something. Okay, where do we want these? Okay, I think maybe this area. And let's have a look. Okay, here. And I think it would be a good idea to feather both of these. No, let's just instead feather them like this by control dragging these points. And let's also go to the last frame. And let's adjust these a little bit. They don't have to be perfect, as this is such a soft, subtle layer. But it'll help a little bit in terms of blending everything together. Cool. Actually, let's maybe make a third mask, which will just encompass everything. And we'll make the opacity of it maybe 0.5. So just to show, if we go into the alpha here, first I created these two, and I want a little bit of the God ray effect on the other parts of the image, but not too much. So I've got this lowered to 0.5. Which gives me a little bit of that effect everywhere else. Maybe let's drop it to 0.3. Okay, here is a little bit intense. Maybe let's drop this down. And so currently there's a little problem with our values getting a little bit burnt out where these intersect. So let's have a look. What if I set this to max instead? Okay, no, still the same problem. Let's instead... Okay, let's first of all move this down a little bit. And then we're going to grab this and we're going to create a keyer. And we'll plug this in here. And in the keyer, we'll just select these really bright parts of the image. And let's merge this together with our roto. And if we go in here, let's have a look at setting this to stencil. So now the brightest parts of the image should be not included in, not included in this alpha. So let's see if that helps. Okay, it helps a little bit. We could, let's have a look again. If we go back into our keyer, and let's just have a look at enhancing some of these values. Okay, so now there should be very little of this God ray effect in the brightest parts of the image. And yeah, I think that mostly fixed it. If we look here, this is now not burnt out and we are having a much better result, so that's pretty cool. Right, let's move on. Alright, so here I've now brought in my renders from Clarice of the spaceship. So here I have the DMP textures, and I also have depth. I have my jet engines, and I've also applied the reflective layer from the city onto the airships just to get a little bit of reflectivity as well to hopefully define the shapes a little bit more. So if we grab our DMP spaceships and let's just merge it in between our fog and our foreground waterfalls. So these waterfalls we want to go above the spaceships. We'll just create a merge over node with just the default operation of over. And let's plug this in here. Alright, so now we've got our spaceships in and they're animated. Okay. So let's clean this up a little bit. And let's grab our reflection pass and bring these up a little bit more. And let's just, let's have a look at our airships. Currently the alpha is just white, so let's create a shuffle node and put the alpha in the red channel. So now our alpha takes on the same values as the red channel. And let's maybe create a mask, or sorry, merge mask. And let's plug this in as A and our reflective airships as B. And let's merge over. And so now we have our reflective pass masked by this alpha and applied on top of our DMP airships, but it's not currently very visible. If I, for example, not use this mask, we see that this should be a stronger effect. For example, we could just simply set this to the screen and get an effect this way. Or we could choose overlay. And now our reflective layer is overlaid over our DMP layer. So let's bring this back. And maybe let's reduce this a little bit. And let's create a grade node. And here we're just going to increase the gain quite a lot. Oops. Maybe that much. And we're going to set, or we're going to look at this. Okay, still not too much coming through. But what we could do is go into our mask here. And let's grade this as well. And we're going to have this applied to RGBA because we want to also grade our alpha channel. And here let's also increase the gain by, I don't know, by 30. Let's have a look. And let's decrease the gamma to make it more contrasted. And so now our reflections should be multiplied by the bright parts of the image and just broken up a little bit. So let's have a look. Okay, so that provides for something more interesting immediately. Awesome. I think we could maybe reduce the saturation of our DMP here a little bit. So let's create a color correct and let's drop the saturation to maybe this much. Let's bring down or bring up our depth pass as well, and let's just merge this over, and we're gonna set this to screen as well. And let's have a look. So this is with our depth enabled. I think we could reduce the strength of this mix to maybe a quarter. Yeah, something like that, maybe. You can always just check against the background that you have, so if the mix is at 1, maybe this is correct, but it really hides the spaceships, so I think it helps to go a little bit lower on this depth and kind of have these blend in nicely to the surroundings and stand out a tiny bit. Lastly, let's grab our jet engines and let's again add them to our main comp branch here and merge them in. And here we're going to set this to screen. Alright, so now we've got these engines. And I've also included them in my reflective render just so we get a little bit of a realistic, I guess, reaction from the metal of the spaceship, just to add a little bit to the engines. But I think we could also add more light from them onto the spaceship just by using a comp trick. So let's create a shuffle node and put the white or the alpha in the red channel. So this is now our alpha. And let's blur it. And let's do maybe something like that. And let's connect a color, no, a grade here. So we have our spaceship and we connect the grade here and connect this as the mask. And let's have a look. Maybe put it up a little bit here and gain. Okay, maybe not 50, but maybe we could make it a little bit different for every color channel. So I want it to be slightly yellowish red, this glow. So first let's reduce the blue and let's reduce the green slightly less. Okay. So now we have our actual engines illuminating the spaceship a little bit. I think we could make this a little bit better by creating a merge. And just if we make a little bit more space really quickly. If I create a keyer and connect it to my airship's DMP layer, and I'll just increase the contrast a bit. So we only are selecting these highlights, and then if I here multiply this key layer with this blurry jet engine one, I get something in between, but currently not very visible, so maybe let's just add a grade node here. And let's just put up the gain. Maybe to this. So now for this lit area we have something that actually interacts with our actual spaceship, or so it looks at least. So previously it was just a very sort of generic glow, whereas now it looks like it's actually lighting something on the ship. So maybe if we just reduce this mix a little bit we get sort of the in-between that is maybe the best of both worlds. Alright, so that's quite cool. Maybe let's actually reduce the saturation here a little bit more. Okay, and I think I only wanted reduced maybe for these two foreground shifts, because the rest I'm pretty happy with. So let's just add a rota and a reformat, and let's connect this here and this here, and let's just select our big spaceship and this one as well. And so now this desaturation applies to these two. And maybe even here this is a little bit too much, so let me just turn down the opacity of this curve. Okay. So now we have our spaceships in. That's quite cool. I think we could do with a little bit more blending in here, but okay, yeah. What we could do is let's just go here, and maybe we could add a little bit more of an interesting light interaction with the spaceships by just faking it a little bit in comp. So let's create a grade, and let's set the gain to 1/4, and this will be sort of our shadow color. So let's again create a rota and plug it in as the mask, and also plug in a reformat. And now here in the rota, let's draw a little bit of a curve for where this could be in shadow, and maybe the sunlight is hitting here somewhere. And let's add some fall off. So hopefully it'll look like as it's coming into the shot, it's also coming into the light, and maybe attract attention a little bit that way. Let's go to frame 1. So with the positioning of this mask, seeing as the shot moves, I'm just going to pick something in the background that is quite static to sort of follow. So somewhere here,